I am Captain Anthony Dupree, and I'm the captain of the Special Operations Branch. We'll need about 20 minutes. Today I have with me Lieutenant Ken Impellizzeri, who is the SWAT CO, and he's one of our subject matter experts. Ken will be retiring here this Thursday after 37 years of service. Then I have Lieutenant Luis Carbajal, who is also a subject matter expert. He is the SWAT XO, and he'll be tag teaming with Ken to present this.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, or I'm sorry, good afternoon. Thank you for. We're going to go over our presentation here on the Assembly Bill 481 Military Equipment Outline. The summary of the goal of the presentation is to seek City Council approval for continued use of military-style equipment as defined in California State Assembly Bill 481. We'll outline and explain the uses of the current equipment being used by the San Diego Police Department and outline the equipment described in State's Assembly Bill 481 currently utilized by the department and its need to maintain public safety and the highest quality police service for our communities. Only 0.0016 of the adopted fiscal year 2025 department budget is allocated for the equipment listed in 481. And there's a graph here that explains how much money is being used this year for the military style equipment. And it shows it's 0.0016% of the budget. The budget comparison, the annual budget for the military cost went down by about $185,000. Therefore, the percentage annual of the equipment for the previous fiscal year was 0.002%, and now it's 0.0016%. The number of PRT assists went down. Use of the special equipment, such as pepper balls, OC foggers, it decreased from 2023. And there's a graph there that explains it. So we have a SWAT call out, we call it Code 11. It went from 15 to 19, from 23 to 24. This is calendar year. And a Code 12, which is an emergency response, which is normally some kind of an active shooter or an ongoing SWAT call out. The previous year we had 3, and last year we had 1. Our PRT assist, which is handled by SWAT officers who work in the field, went from 62 to 53, and then high-risk warrants that the SWAT team served went from 15 to 18. The goal of this presentation is to emphasize that the San Diego Police Department does not participate in the 1033 program for procuring surplus military equipment. The last piece of equipment the department received from this program was an unmanned robot that was returned in March of 2020. The items listed in the San Diego Police Department Annual Military Equipment Report are all manufactured by civilian companies. The acquisition and implementation of each tool stems from incidents where lives were lost and an important equipment need was identified. The overall purpose of their use is de-escalation, standoff distance, and safety, and most importantly, the preservation of human life. The majority of the equipment described in AB 481 is utilized exclusively by the SWAT team. The mission of the SWAT team is to use training, sound, tactical planning, and equipment to bring a safe resolution to critical incidents. The SWAT team maintains the highest level of operational readiness through the development of sound tactical strategies and innovative training programs. And the SWAT team is also used by the department as a de-escalation tool. Only certain specific exigent circumstances will dictate early aggressive tactical action. The vast majority of all SWAT callouts end with a peaceful resolution. The primary response team works 365 days, 24 hours a day, and they are patrol officers that have SWAT training, and they're working out in the field. The PRT concept was adopted by the San Diego Police Department after the Crandall Drive tragedy in June 6th of 1981, where 2 of our officers were killed in the line of duty. The primary mission is emergency citizen or officer rescues. The special response team is a smaller team, a minimal team of a team leader and 6 officers who are on call at all times. We have 2 of those. SRT concept was adopted by the police department after the McDonald's restaurant tragedy in July of 1984. The primary mission is hostage rescue and complex armed barricaded suspect response. The sniper team is 2 team leaders and 12 officers fully staffed. Currently, we have 10 officers. They're highly trained officers. They provide overwatch protection at large events. Snipers also provide the SWAT team with a greater standoff distance and observation capability at critical incidents. SWAT snipers are assigned to large events to protect citizens against an attack like the one that occurred in Las Vegas at the Harvest Festival in October of 2017. The primary goal is to protect citizens against a sniper-based or active shooter type attack. Complying with the ordinance, equipment utilized by the police department and exclusively used by the SWAT team complies with the transparent and responsible use of surveillance technology, or the surveillance ordinance that was adopted by the city September 9th of 2022. The equipment, the command vehicles that we have, the mobile command vehicles, they're self-contained command posts designed to provide an incident commander a mobile base for operations. We have several of them. Our Mobile 1 is a 40-foot mobile command vehicle. Our number 2 is a 24-foot mobile command vehicle, and number 3 is a 44-foot mobile command vehicle that has decontamination and prisoner processing capabilities. Then we have Mobile 4, that's what we call it, is a command vehicle with communications ability, and Mobile 7 is a command vehicle with communications ability. That's our newest vehicle. And then we have our emergency negotiations team. They have their own van that they use at these incidents, and our SWAT special equipment vehicle that we use at all SWAT callouts. And there's pictures of the large 40-foot and the 24-foot Mobile 1 and Mobile 2. And that's the ENT van and the SWAT special equipment vehicle. We have 2 armored rescue vehicles. The first one is a 2-door armored rescue vehicle, and then the other is the 4-door armored vehicle. They provide a high level of ballistic protection for a rescue team when dealing with an armed subject. The armored vehicles are not equipped with any affixed weapons and are utilized by the SWAT team as a defensive tool with ballistic protection during citizen or officer rescues. The 4-door armored vehicle is equipped with biochemical and radiological and nuclear detection equipment and fresh air breathing system. It allows officers access to a potentially hazardous environment to do a rescue. That's our 4-door vehicle there, the newer one of the 2. And that's the 2-door there. We have unmanned aircraft systems, or aero systems. The UAS systems utilized by the department can assist at any incident where there's an aerial perspective where it would be beneficial. They're only used during critical incidents and high-risk operations with the authorization of the Chief of Police. And these UASs allow SWAT officers to obtain a view of an area without sending an officer into an uncleared or dangerous position. And then where a robot would be limited or have no access. They're only used by officers who have completed the certification course and have attended continuous training for the safe operations. And all of the STPD inventory can be legally purchased by citizens. These are a picture of a couple of the drones, the smaller drones. Tracked robots, the SWAT officers, they have two different ones. The robots are used exclusively by SWAT officers during critical incidents and high-risk operations. The SWAT team currently utilizes two types of robots operationally, the I-Core mini caliber robot and the FLIR First Look robot. The I-Core is larger and has the ability to open unlocked doors and the handles. And the First Look is a smaller robot that's more maneuverable. They allow SWAT officers to obtain a view of an area without sending an officer to an uncleared or dangerous position. And the officers train on the safe operation and deployment of the robots. This is a picture of the larger of the two. It's about that big. And then the smaller one, which is only about that big, and it's very light. And then department-issued rifles. Patrol officers carry a Colt carbine, the law enforcement series AR-15 rifle. SWAT officers have the Daniel Defense semi-automatic AR-15 rifle. And our snipers have the Accuracy International 308 bolt-action rifle. And the ammunition is listed in the report associated with each weapon system. There's a picture of the patrol and SWAT configurations of the AR-15 rifles. Pepper ball launchers, they're used by SWAT officers only, and they're used to deploy an extended range pepper ball in response to an assaultive or actively resisting suspect. SWAT officers must complete a pepper ball certification course and requalify with the pepper ball equipment annually. Flashbang canisters are used only by SWAT officers. They're used as an attention-getting or distractive device. And when deployed, the canister emits a loud noise and a bright light after about a 1.5 second delay. Only deployed in a clearing area with exactly a 5-foot open space. It can't be any tighter than that. SWAT officers must complete a certification course and re-qualify with the equipment annually. And then our 40 millimeter launchers, there's two different types of launchers. We have the single launchers and the multi-launchers, and they're both only used by SWAT officers. They're used to launch a 40 millimeter sponge round, it's about that big, or a chemical agent ferret that's exclusively used by SWAT officers. The 40 millimeter sponge round is used only on assaultive suspects or suspects actively resisting with access to a weapon. The 40 millimeter chemical agent ferret rounds are used to drive a suspect from a structure or to prevent the suspect from accurately firing out of a location at citizens or officers. And this is a picture. The first one is the single launcher, and the multi-launcher is the other one. Chemical agents, they're deployed exclusively by SWAT officers. They're used to drive a suspect or suspects from a structure or location. And they're also used to prevent an armed suspect from accurately firing at officers or citizens during an emergency situation, which I mentioned before. Chemical agents can be used on a violent or assaultive person, open air, only with the permission of the chief of police or designee. Delivery methods depend on the proximity to the target, the type of agent being deployed, and the size of the structure. Okay, now we'll move on to our LRAD, the long-range acoustic device. It's a type of a loudspeaker system, and it emits a focused directional beam of sound. Most loudspeakers kind of throw sound out at a real wide area. The LRAD focuses the sounds into a specific area. They're used as a PA system to issue emergency evacuation orders, communicate with the suspect where direct communication isn't possible, or to relay directions to a crowd in a noisy environment, like a lawful assembly, the announcements there. We have three types of the LRAD. The largest one is the LRAD 100X. The LRAD, the smaller one, is the 500X RE is the compact, And then the newest one that we have is the Model 450 XL. Moving on to the beanbag shotgun. These are shotguns that shoot just a beanbag. It's a 12 gauge size, about the size of about a nickel. Beanbag shotguns are extended range impact weapons, and they fire that 12 gauge round. Beanbag shotguns are affixed with a bright orange stock and forend for easy identification, and these shotguns can be deployed to impact suspects demonstrating assaultive or life-threatening behavior. They are not utilized by the department during civil unrest or crowd control situations. And then breaching equipment, we have explosive breaching. They're used during crisis situations when necessary for a SWAT team to quickly and effectively breach a door or port a wall. They can be used to defeat a fortified door, a wall, or a barrier, and considered a cutting tool. Effective explosive breaching techniques allow SWAT officers to immediately enter into a structure with minimal risk to victims, officers, or suspects. They're only used with the approval of the SWAT commanding officer and the incident commander when all the safety considerations have been evaluated. An example here is used by Las Vegas SWAT officers to defeat the door that was fortified while responding to the Harvest Music Festival in 2017. Night vision equipment. The SWAT team currently uses NODs, or the night optical or observation devices. The majority of the SWAT missions occur at night or in low-light environments. The NODs provide officers a tactical advantage and a higher degree of officer safety in those conditions. The use of NODs is extremely advantageous during hostage rescue, response to active shooters, and other high-risk operations. SWAT officers attend a 30-hour training course and must pass an annual low-light weapons qualification shoot to utilize the night vision equipment. And here are the two different ones. There's the single ocular and the double. A recent example, we had a Code 12, which is an emergency response, on May 5th of 2024. Northeastern Division officers received a radio call of gunshots heard in the area. The suspect then called 911, giving his address and stating that he was suicidal. Shortly after the patrol officers arrived, a PRT assist was called. Once the PRT officers arrived, they assessed the circumstance and they upgraded the incident to a Code 11. And patrol later learned that there was a possibility of other suspects inside the residence. As more SWAT officers arrived, 3 additional gunshots were heard. SWAT personnel upgraded the call to a Code 12. SWAT quickly established a REACT team and was given reactionary authority based on the possibility of other suspects inside the residence. SWAT was granted the permission to contain and negotiate, and the emergency negotiations team made numerous attempts to contact the suspect. Meanwhile, the SWAT REACT team disabled the security cameras above the garage using the 40 millimeter less lethal rounds, the sponge rounds. REACT utilized the ICOR robot to attempt to open the security screen door on the front, but the metal door was locked. REACT later used the Bearcat to break down a wooden fence on the property and gain access to the rear entrance. This would allow REACT to make an emergency entry if needed. REACT deployed a 9-bang flashbang, it makes 9 different bangs, on the front side of the residence while the negotiators conducted bullhorn announcements. The suspect came out and surrendered to the REACT team, where he was taken into custody. REACT searched the residence with the ICOR and First Look robots, and REACT then entered and cleared the residence. Northeastern officers took over the scene. And another recent example was a warrant in the City Heights area, and this was on June 20th of 2024. SWAT served the high-risk warrant in City Heights. Prior to the warrant, the Vice Unit had been investigating an illegal gambling den at the target location. Per the investigation, there were 23 machines and 15 to 20 occupants inside the location at any given time. The main suspect was a gang member with a firearms history, and the 2 doormen they had firearms-related history, as well as both having registered firearms listed. The location was equipped with multiple surveillance cameras. Due to the threat potential, active surveillance and containment issues, the SWAT team was requested to serve the warrant and secure the location with all these occupants. SWAT officers arrived on the scene from a pre-designated staging location. They secured an outer perimeter, and SWAT officers took their positions near the main pedestrian gate leading into the target structure. The UAS assets were deployed for overhead surveillance. SWAT officers were positioned behind the Bearcat, and it provided ballistic protection, and REACT units disabled the surveillance cameras using those 40 millimeter less lethal rounds. SWAT officers deployed the ICOR robot into the top stairwell and attempted to gain visual of the front door. And all SWAT units on containment and REACT positions had planned flashbangs to gain attention of the occupants and chemical agent capabilities in the event of an emergency. Once all the elements were in place, call-outs were initiated, instructing all occupants to exit the structure. After the initial group of occupants exited, it was believed more occupants were inside. There was no response after multiple call-outs, and a gas plan was in the process of being approved when the remaining 4 occupants exited. Two drones and a first-look robot were used to clear most of the structure, and then SWAT entered, cleared it later, and with no injuries, all the subjects were detained, and SWAT turned the scene over to the investigators. So in summary, the San Diego Police Department respectfully asks the City Council to certify the continued use of the safety equipment outlined in this presentation, and each piece of equipment is crucial to the department's ability to maintain public safety. Any questions from anyone?
Thank you for the presentation. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Cesar Javier, if you can please come forward. And then the next speakers are Al Hernandez and Laura, Ramsey's Laura. You'll have 4 minutes. Please proceed.
Cesar and Purita, community volunteer, District 9, part of City Heights. You mentioned City Heights.
Yes.
That's the district of Councilor Rivera. The enemy of our bad guys. Bad guys, Councilor Rivera. Thank you. We support this measure, as we have been supporting since we resided in our community. At the state and condition, we need you. And so whenever I approach a police car, I always salute. And that salute is respect to you guys because you are on the front line. Not Councilor Rivera, not the land use chair, not the public safety Councilor Wilford. Humans, our fellow San Diegans. Value analysis. Let's read The Art of War, a reference for us to come up with a solution. Rules and rule implementation. They are our brothers and sisters. They are humans. The only way, I think, is to defeat them without firing a shot or without using the robot. We use Councilor Rivera to think of a solution. Perhaps invest in education, invest in health and human services, to keep our dying and fellow San Diegans homeless. Make them work again physically to render service and earn economic wealth getting. Are you doing that, Councilor Rivera, in our district? No. He doesn't care. We care because we love our San Diegans. We live here. Family of soldiers, active and retired. Most of our law enforcers came from the military. Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever. And they're ready. Are you ready? That's the question. Now there is a weighing whether we have to spend more on security, law enforcement, tranquility of the community. Very well. That's in our preamble. That's in our Constitution. But what are you doing, Councilor Rivera? The former Council President. Leadership, assigned leadership. We are frustrated. And I fear that the destruction of our city is emanating from the ineptness of our assigned leadership. Not you guys. You carry the heavy burden of their political virus, their corruption. That's the truth. They don't care because they have their money. They have money to pay the tax. They have money to live with fancy houses and fancy cars and fancy restaurants. What about you? What about us? Seniors. I am not here to revolt. No, sir. I have read and reread The Art of War, and the only way for them, to defeat our enemy is to let them surrender, step down. Come on, Councilor Rivera, step down. You were the councilor president, and you have done nothing in our community. That's the truth. You carry the burden, sir, and you deserve our support. If we could give more, we will give it to you. I promise these officers, whenever I met them, before they hurt you, me first. Did you say that to our law enforcers, Councilor Rivera? Whenever the helicopter hovers in our community, I always remember, where are you, Councilor Rivera? The firefighters cannot go enter the private property because there is no rule. And you were announcing, thank you for your
time has
peaceful
concluded.
evacuation.
Al Hernandez?
What did you do? Thank you.
Great seeing you guys again. Listen, I didn't realize the police department would be here today, but I wrote notes about our concerns. I'm from the South Bay, 92154, and Vivian Moreno heard me before. This is ridiculous. I agree. Your presentation was great. Yeah, you need all the equipment. I agree. I agree with everything that Cesar said. But the fact is, I wonder if the police department is run properly, if the administration is properly. You know, I only got 2 minutes to really tell you how I feel about things. You know, every time there's a new chief of police, comes out on TV and says the nice things. He comes out across as a nice guy. Everyone says the same thing, getting closer to the community, which is a lie. What we want is police presence. What we want is you guys do your job. What we want is, in my neighborhood, to go over there and see 20 cars abandoned over there, and nobody does anything about it. What we want is stop those young guys thinking they have a Ferrari on Palm Avenue. You know, used to park a vehicle on Montgomery High School. It's no longer there. We spend millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to build a center or a police station on 27th Street and Coronado Avenue. Now it became a parking area. They shut down the office with a big note. We're understaffed. We cannot take any information. That was a big mistake closing that office. So my experience has been negative, to be honest. And I'm a good citizen. I pay my taxes. I clean up the street. I cover the graffiti. What's important is presence.
Thank
We
you
need
for your
somebody
concluding
in our
comments, sir.
neighborhood to
Your
go
time
over
has concluded. Ramses, Laura? Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can lift it up more if you want.
All right, so I know that you guys are probably going to pass it. I'm not going to argue with that. I think that the SWAT team needs a lot of what you guys need, but I also want to take the moment to congratulate you and thank you guys for what you did at the No Kings protest the other day. That was the first time I saw a protest that was not only protected by the police, but actually escorted and assisted by police. And when you compare that to what happened in LA, that was just straight up assault on the civilians. And LAPD has their own problems with legitimate gangs in their ranks. We know this. There's been multiple studies about this. We know this. San Diego doesn't have to be like LA. San Diego should be working with the community to use our taxes in a better way, to use our taxes to grow the homeless outreach program. Because I will say, being out, the first thing I saw when I got to Balboa Park to park my car that day was the homeless outreach truck going around Balboa Park. And I saw that, and I saw wow, for the first time I saw a police car and I wasn't afraid that I was going to be like targeted for no reason. That guy's actually doing his job. And we need to be focusing on doing more of that and focusing on how we can protect the rights of not only our citizens, but also our immigrant community. Because a lot of them, you know, there are bad guys, and we know this. Everyone knows this. But there's a lot of people that are being assaulted, and they don't have the ability to speak out for themselves. And we need you guys, because the reality is, if any citizens show up and try to resist, it's going to escalate the situation, and people are going to get hurt on both sides. So we need you guys to be out there on the sides of the citizens, making sure that they have the warrants, making sure that they have everything that they need to go after the bad guys and not our people. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. I started the 5-minute timer here in council chambers and going to those participating online. Blair Beekman and Lori Saldana. Blair, please proceed.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for this item. For thanking you on the previous public comment, I missed an important point about how to address, I found it a bit inappropriate to be voting on it so soon. Like Francine Maxwell, I'll try to write you some letters on the subject to get a bit more clarity in your reasoning, and I hope we can work on it. I hope you can allow community more time to think before the October rollout and community conversation. That said, thank you. For this item, for me, I think it's most important in this sort of item to mention why I think it's important why we have this sort of item. Because of what happened at the date of 9/11 and the fact that we went to war over very questionable reasons, and that in fact the reason and the day of 9/11, that I think we internally know what happened on that day, but yet we don't have the skills or the tools to more openly talk about that day. But I hope we're learning to, we can be learning to, much like the John F. Kennedy assassination that was first labeled as a lone gunman. I think it's a lot deeper, 9/11, than we talk about. And yet we know internally that I hope we're working on. And we ended up going to war for over 10 years. And it wasn't until 2014 we started better addressing the fact that we were a country in a war democracy. We were in a state of continual war. We didn't know as local community how to talk to each other. We were secretive and fearful. And in 2014, we started measures like this that, and the tech accountability work that I do, where you have to be more open and accountable and have public oversight with the community on matters of technology, on military tactics, the use of police force. All of that came to the forefront. And thank you to try to practice those things and to do it well. Because when we do, we're practicing peace and not war, which is needed at this time, by the way. Because look how we practice peace, not war. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Lori Saldana, if you can please proceed.
Yes, it seems a very unfortunate time, but I understand you have to get this done by a deadline. And given that we have such militaristic tactics on our streets, I don't understand why this was direct docketed and didn't go to public safety to have a more thorough conversation and reassure the public about how these armaments are going to be used, how these are going to be deployed, the training, the safety considerations. All of that is important. Again, as I mentioned in my previous comment, people get upset due to incomplete or inaccurate communications. And in this case, the Public Safety Committee was adjourned for the month. There's a special meeting coming up, but the opportunity to have this discussion at a committee hearing at a time when residents are rightfully fearful of people showing up with some of the weapons described here in their neighborhoods and communities, I think that there's a missed opportunity for a discussion about why the training for post-certified officers is exactly what's needed and missing in many cases with the people that are showing up on the front pages of newspapers as they apprehend people in communities, especially north of here. So I understand the need to do this. The state law requires it by a certain deadline. There's transparency issues that were not addressed until, frankly, some people complained and forced more transparency on this. So in that interest of increased transparency, to reassure the public, please hold public safety committee meetings at a time consistent with these deadlines going forward, so that people have a chance to review this before it goes to the full city as a direct docket item. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you to the public for their comments. We'll turn now to council member for any questions or comments. We'll start with our public safety chair, council member Von Wilbert.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and I can't believe you're retiring soon. On Thursday? Oh no. All right, well, we got to get you a proclamation. We appreciate you. 37 years? So you started when you were 12? Okay. I think, is your mic on? Okay. Well, one, thank you for the incredible presentation, the work on this. This did come through Public Safety Committee last year, where we did review it in full with all the public recording requirements. And I know that no new equipment has been obtained since, and so we brought it to direct docket this time, given that we had to adjourn this week so that we could have our public safety meeting and accommodate the Privacy Advisory Board coming up. So thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you for also explaining in detail what the equipment is, what it's not. Also, this is all manufactured by civilian manufacturers. This is stuff that, not being used by our military. It's hard for the folks, including me, to understand because the state law called it military-style equipment. But we all know sometimes as a legislator, we don't get it right all the time, and we can write laws that don't accurately depict. So thank you for being so clear, because there are some cities that do have surplus military equipment, and that's different than here. I also wanted to thank you, and I want to thank our public commenter for highlighting the good work you did during the recent civilian protest, the No Kings protest. I was up protesting with my constituents in Rancho Bernardo. Everything was completely safe and civil, and we saw the police there also making sure that everybody was off the street and where we needed to be. And so just thank you for your good work on that. And thank you to San Diegans for your good work in exercising our First Amendment rights. And I asked this question previously in previous years, but we have a very strict practice of not using equipment such as bean bags, for example, in crowd control. And I want to make sure that's still the same. Okay, sorry, your mic's not on.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay, got it. There was a horrific incident with the older woman who was protesting years ago in La Mesa, and we never want to see that happen here. So thank you for this. I also want to take a minute to explain a little bit more about how I've learned through this process, because sometimes the Bearcat or the defensive equipment we have can look like it's a tank, look like it's an aggressive piece of equipment, but it's not. And in fact, I do encourage people to go and visit the SWAT team. There's quarterly events where folks can come to police training headquarters at the old Chargers training field. I don't know how sports work. There's Chargers training field that we've taken over. And you can actually get into the Bearcats. You can see what they look like. There's no weapons on the front of them. But I did, and I'm going to take my extra 3 minutes, and if anyone else has a little time for me. You kind of, and I'm glad you explained it, but I really want to show the public what happened. On slide 8, you described how a lot of these concepts were put into place because of tragedies we experienced. The Crandall Street tragedy in June of 1981, and the McDonald's restaurant tragedy in July of 1984. And so, Jen, if you could bring up the slides. I was not born in 1981, not gonna lie. I was born in 82, but this is part of the scene from the Crandall Street tragedy in 1981. And I'm gonna read a bit from what happened from the newspaper. A man beat his next-door neighbor over a garden plant and killed two police officers responding to the disturbance, and threatened dozens of neighbors before he was shot to death by a SWAT team officer. The neighbor was also wounded during this hour of violence. His name was Thomas Ciota, 40 years old. He fought with his neighbor about the placement of a plant near his property in Linda Vista and shot and killed the two officers who responded to the disturbance call, police said. He then started shooting at the paramedics who were trying to arrive to help. He shot that police car so many times it exploded into flames. And so the two wounded officers laid unattended on the man's driveway for 30 minutes while they bled out, while he fired wildly at the paramedics from his backyard. If you want to go to this YouTube video, you'll see the amount of officers standing around who could not assist their fellow officers who were bleeding in that driveway because they were being shot at. If you go to the next slide, please. This was the 1985, I was alive then, I was 2, but this was our Union Tribune headline from the 1984 shooting at the McDonald's restaurant in San Ysidro. If you go to the next slide, please. this is what the windows look like. There were so many bullets flying inside that restaurant that there's no way police could have entered safely without any kind of defensive system. And this is from the Wikipedia article. A statement said, when a fire truck drove within range outside the McDonald's restaurant, the shooter opened fire and repeatedly pierced the fire truck with bullets, slightly wounding one occupant inside. There was no way for officers to get inside that building when the gunman was firing. And so if you go to the next slide, please. That is why these systems were created. That is why this vehicle was created. It is a ballistic defense system that allows officers to enter a scene, try and get hostages out without being shot and killed themselves. It took me a while to understand this because when you see it on the street, you don't understand this is not a tank. This is something to actually retrieve hostages and keep officers safe. I also didn't know until this last year, because it's been almost 40 years, or was 40 years last year from the shooting in the McDonald's massacre. Our San Diego police captain, Al Leos, was a McDonald's employee at that McDonald's and was shot in his arms, legs, torso. He had only been there for 3 months before he was shot so many times, and he almost died. He spent years recovering, but he grew up to want to serve the public, is now one of our police officers. I didn't know that until the new special showing this 40 years later. It's pretty incredible what this guy's been through. So I just wanted to do a little more explaining to the public about what these things are, because I'm glad you mentioned them in the slides, but it took me a big learning experience to realize this, and so I wanted to share why we have these things. And the incredible danger that our SWAT officers go through to rescue hostages in situations. We had a really awful incident in Scripps Ranch recently, where a hostage was taken. A neighbor walked out and started shooting and pointed a gun at a pest control guy who was sheltering in place in his truck. And luckily, the pest control guy wasn't injured during the scene, but we did have to bring in the Bearcat and other things. And so I just want to thank you for your work, and thank you for keeping our folks safe and not using this against civilians when there's no crime or threat present. And I know I've been talking a while, but this is important for the public to know why we need these things. So thank you very much for the report today. I appreciate you. And with that, I will make the motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Von Wilpert. We'll turn next to Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. And thank you to our presenters today, and congratulations, I think, on your retirement, although, boy, are we going to miss you.
Thank you.
But I know your life of service will continue, and I appreciate you. Actually, the entire San Diego Police Department is greatly appreciated. I want to thank the department so much for having the policy of not using much heavier military equipment that they would be allowed under law. Certain cities do use that, and I find that the way that you prevent bad incidents by doing what you do, you prevent crime, you prevent problems, and I really appreciate that. You're very thoughtful about violence and preventing it. And that's why San Diego is always either the first or second large city in America that is the safest. We're the safest city, crime-wise. And I want to thank you for that and for all of your service. You are greatly appreciated, and I'm happy to second the motion. Thank you, Council President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. We do have a motion by Councilmember Von Wilpert and a second by Councilmember Campbell. Seeing no other speakers, Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Campbell, if I may get your vote for the record?
I vote yes.
And that passes 6-2 with Councilmember Foster, Councilmember Elo Rivera voting no, and Council President LaCava absent. Thank you, Council President Pro Tem.
Thank you.